Welcome, Taurus rising signs of the zodiac, to your horoscope for the month of November 2025. I'm Cosmic Girl. We're going to be talking about all the planets in transits. We've got grand water trines happening this month as we did last month in the month of October. We have a full moon where the moon is exalted this month in your sign, being Taurus, your first house. Lucky, lucky you. And lots of action with your chart ruler, Venus, which we'll be discussing in this video through the lens of astrology. On the 5th of November, with a full moon in your natal first house, I too will be having a little happy dance and celebration. My YouTube channel is having its second birthday. So I'll be celebrating along with you, Taurus rising signs. Okay, let's jump straight into it. Plenty of info coming your way astrologically. So if you need to take it in chunks, I understand it might be easier to go day by day because there's so much activity in the month of November with planets in aspects and transits, lunations. So work with the information however you choose and see fit to you and your schedule and your time, because I appreciate that some months are a little extra, if you will. Okay, let's jump straight into it, Taurus rising signs. Chart rule of Venus is continuing her transit in Libra in your natal sixth house until the 6th of November. So Venus has been in your natal sixth house for a little while now. So you'll have a pretty good gauge on how you have been dealing with your schedule, your routine, work, lots of ups and downs regarding services, your work life may have been in flux with this transit. Lots of busyness with Venus in the natal sixth house where we just do what we got to do, get down to it, and try to find some sort of balance while we're whistling, while we work. But this month, quickly on the sixth, Venus is shifting out of that natal sixth house and moving into your natal seventh house. So, working with planets in transits, best advice knowing that Venus is about to leave your natal sixth house of labor, scheduling, and routine, service, just doing things on the daily round, then I would just be okay with how you're sitting now. We're not here to be perfect or tear ourselves to shreds if all plans haven't come to pass, because Venus going into the natal seventh house of relationships and others in your personal experience are going to be a little bit more helpful for you, because Venus in the seventh house, even though she's in Scorpio, traditionally in detriment, whatever zodiac sign Venus is transiting through, she still does give that zodiac sign a little bit of assistance regarding harmony and enjoyment. So I'm not too concerned about Taurus rising signs not having everything completely wrapped up with a nice red bow, because chart ruler Venus is going into the natal seventh house, that angular part of your natal chart, which is quite fortuitous and very busy this month of November. Okay, let's go on to the planets and transits. On the 4th, Mars will be transiting in Sagittarius, getting out of Scorpio, its sign of domicile, and moving into the natal 8th house until December 15th. So Mars will be in the natal 8th house for the whole month of November. Mercury is also co present in the natal 8th house. So with Mars in the 8th and Mercury here co present, for you as a Taurus rising sign, it's really quite helpful because Mars functions really well in Sagittarius, where it's easier to open up through traveling, expanding, knowledge building, connecting with people that can take you further. It's good for checking out your prospects regarding connections with people that can help you advance with Mars in Sagittarius and Mercury co present. Poor old Mercury is in detriment in Sagittarius, and that can be a little bit nuanced because Mercury can be very contentious, doesn't really have a lot of faith and belief that, yeah, we can go the distance. So we've got a little bit of a background buzz going on with Mercury being a little bit sulky about having to go a little bit further than he may want to, or just advance a little bit quicker than he may want to when he's in his sign of detriment, Sagittarius. Nothing we can't all handle with any planets in transits. But for you in your natal eighth house, I think it's not too bad or too much of a push for you to advance and connect with people, potentially even getting into teaching or mentoring, or some traveling here going on connected to others that can provide some sort of foundational transformation that feels very lively and optimistic, and maybe even a little bit exciting, with Mars in the natal eighth house of Sagittarius from the 4th to the 15th of December. On the 5th, we have Mars sextile Pluto. Nice combination when we've got two very powerful planets connecting in a very easy aspect like a sextile. So it's coming from your natal eighth house to your natal 10th house. So others, people's resources, the house of transformation. Mars is aspecting Pluto in Aquarius in your natal 10th house by a sextile. I really like this because I think on the 5th, you may be getting some sort of exciting, almost hidden gift that can really level you up regarding your ambition, your career. Think upping the ante when it comes to your public facing roles with Mars sextile Pluto. Really quite nice Taurus rising signs. And the same day on the 5th, we've got our first lunation of the month, the full moon in your natal first house of Taurus at 13 degrees. We get a full moon in our own sign once a year, if we're lucky, maybe even two. But annually we get one. So every year around Scorpio season, you get a full moon. And a full moon is a moment to go, whew, I've done a lot. Because a full moon phase is a maturation stage. We see something go from infancy to, oh, we're adulting up here. So with a full moon in your first house of self and your body, your appearance, your health, your natal first house is also connected to new beginnings, then things that you have been engaged with regarding environments and people that you connect with, your sense of emotional stability is becoming really, really obvious on the 5th with the full moon in your natal first house. So we like that, where you get to take a deep breath and go, shit, I've accomplished a lot. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Thank you very much. I like to think of the full moon in our natal first house as we can pat ourselves on the back for a job well done. We really have advanced a lot further than we give ourselves credit for. And it's other people around us that really show us, wow, hey, Taurus rising signs, you're doing great. You've done a great job. We didn't realize, just how invested you were in pursuing your heart's desire and what you love. And on the 5th, with a full moon phase, you get a little bit of a, hmm, oh, yeah, thanks. I feel really good about myself. So it's very intimate and personal to you in the natal first house. But you may be having an extra lovely day with Mars sextiling Pluto as well. So would love some feedback from the Taurus rising signs about this lunation and this day, especially Mars sextiling Pluto. On the 6th, chart ruler Venus is on the move. She now ingresses into Scorpio, your natal 7th house, until the 30th, where the sun is also co-present until the 21st at least. Venus and the sun in the 7th. So it's your angular part of your natal chart. It's your relationships, significant one-on-one connections in your life. So when your chart ruler Venus is in Scorpio, where she's traditionally known to be in detriment, we've got a planet such as yours going, oh, I don't feel really comfortable. I'm not sure if I can really do this. Venus sort of loses steam, loses a bit of faith and optimism. She loses a little bit of her ability to be Venus, which means she's in detriment and she's struggling to play nice. And that's a very interesting transit for a Taurus rising signs. And again, Venus does this annually. So it's not your first rodeo with Venus transiting in the natal seventh house of Scorpio to the 30th of November. Very quick transit for Venus. Venus is at top speed in the solar system right now. Okay, now with the Sun co-present as well, the Sun's really good for showing you who's on Team Taurus rising signs and who's fair weather. And the Sun also illuminates the depths of connections and the significance of them. So we like the Sun in the seventh house because we need to know our relationships and who we knock shoulders with. And we need to be able to have an understanding of balance and exchange. So the Sun's doing really good work in your seventh house of Scorpio. But with Venus now here from the 6th to the 30th, then this is about basically bending the knee to get what you want. Now, that sounds a little bit maybe against your natural flow, but we have to be okay with maybe not getting everything we want and our cups filled with this transit with Venus in our natal seventh house. So think teething problems with relationships, things not connecting as organically as we would like, and you may find yourself a little extra emotional and intense when it comes to relationships and other people, and even observing other people in your life being quite intense or maybe even clandestine or a little bit fair weather. Nothing you can't handle. Venus in the natal seventh house from the 6th to the 30th. Ooh, yes, that's right. On the 7th, we have retrograde Uranus, which has been in Gemini. Your natal second house now begins its retrograde back into your natal first house. Okay, this is significant because with Uranus in the natal first house, you get an opportunity to basically just go with the flow and let anything and everything happen all at once, is the astrological advice. In other words, life is very, very dynamic at times. Life is sedate at times. Life is excitable at times. Life is very weird at times. So we're going to have to roll with it with wacky, zany Uranus throwing us curveballs when it's back in the natal first house of Taurus from the 7th of November. He'll go direct in Taurus next year on February 3rd, 2026 at 27 degrees and will not be leaving your natal first house until April 25 next year, 2026, and he'll be firmly planted in Gemini to 2032. So let's quickly recap how you can experience Uranus in your natal first house. So this isn't your first rodeo either, Taurus rising signs. Uranus spent over 6 years in your natal first house. And what Uranus does is he takes all of our well laid plans regarding what we want to start, what we want to initiate. Yes, we're on the right track. I'm in my body, I'm in my skin, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And then Uranus goes, that's great. But let's shake some things up and let's just now take the rug under from your feet. And with that, it can be really shocking and surprising, and things may have really fall into pieces when it comes to your well laid plans, relationships, jobs, homes, travel, events. Uranus just has us feeling like we're in a cyclone. It's very abrupt when it's in the natal first house. But we roll with it. We don't resist it. We just let things be the way they are and learn to laugh about it, because if we don't have a sense of humor, we're stuffed. And Uranus really can feel like that. It's no doubt at all, through the lens of astrology, with Uranus transiting in your natal first house since 2018, Taurus rising signs, you have had profound experiences, high highs, low lows, lots of pivots and changes, which is what Uranus loves to bring us when it's in the natal first house, to give us that sensation that even though it's weird and wacky and a little bit, oh my God, I can't believe that happened, or oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing that, life, be in it. Spice and variety is what Uranus loves to bring us. We don't realize it at the time when we go, what the is going on with me and my life? Later down the track, we get an appreciation of going, wow, that was an insane time in my life. That was amazing. But it was a lot. That's Uranus. So going back into your natal first house from the 7th of November, moving into next year, let it all go, let it all flow, just allow it all to happen. Well laid plans, your sense of self is going through one last bit of transformation and rocky roads. It's the best way to look at it, but learning to giggle and have a sense of humor about it all is well advised when Uranus is back in the first house. On the same day, on the 7th, your chart ruler Venus is squaring off with Pluto. So it was only on the 5th with the full moon that Mars sextiled Pluto. It's like something was almost elevating, is what I was getting. And then when your chart ruler Venus squares Pluto on the same day, on the 7th, I wonder if there is something about a relationship or a connection in your life, Taurus rising signs, that's going through a challenging time with going with the status quo, you or a partner or independent, meaning another person that you're involved with or you yourself, not wanting to basically run with the crowd. So it can feel like an interesting day on the 7th with Venus square Pluto, because Venus is in a superior square, is what we know as a superior square, meaning you're really laying down an anvil regarding what is the standards and what's not when it comes to your public facing roles, career, authority figures in your life, and your ambitions. Really interesting day on the 7th. On the 9th, Mercury is now beginning his third and final retrograde of 2025 in your natal 8th house of Sagittarius at 6 degrees. On the 11th, Jupiter begins its annual retrograde in Cancer, where Jupiter is exalted, like we had that exalted full moon in Taurus. So Jupiter is also exalted, meaning Jupiter is really happy in your natal third house of commuting, communication, and siblings. And on the 11th, retrogrades at 25 degrees and won't go direct until next year on March 10 at 15 degrees. So when Jupiter goes into a backspin in your natal third house of Cancer, Jupiter gives you an opportunity to seek out emotional connections in your community and go back over them and maybe reconnect with people, places, and things that have been maybe put on the back burner whilst Jupiter was direct. So think reconnecting with environments or people, or getting into learning something else, learning something new with Jupiter now retrograding in your natal third house. Siblings can be going through a shift and a transition now that Jupiter is retrograde in the natal third house connected to siblings as well. Nothing too severe here. Jupiter's exalted, doing really, really well. So whatever communities or people, events or happenings going on around you connected to conversations, communication, traveling should be pretty good for you as a Taurus rising sign with Jupiter retrograde. On the 12th, retrograde Mercury conjuncts Mars at 6 degrees in Sagittarius in your natal 8th house of others, resources, and transformation. I like this because with retrograde Mercury, poor Mercury, not doing really well in Sagittarius, when he conjuncts Mars, he gets a bit of a lift because Mars is all about let's just go and grow. Let's muscle up. So Mercury gets a little bit of a helping hand on the 12th when he conjuncts Mars in your natal 8th house. So I feel like this is good for settling down a dispute or discrepancy with you and others, and it gives you a bit of a exhale moment on the 12th when retrograde Mercury conjuncts Mars. Our first grand water trine of November occurs on the 17th. Sun, trine retrograde Jupiter, trine retrograde Saturn. So, what's filtering around us on this day with a grand water trine is intuition. Things are flowing and moving organically, and we get an opportunity to just feel into our environments, who we connect with, and enjoy talking shop regarding whatever our heart's desire is. It's really easy to connect and express ourselves with a grand water trine. So really, really nice on the 17th with a grand water trine from your 7th house to your 3rd house to your 11th house. And these are social houses, so it's a social day. Lots of banter and just lots of laugh and humor going on here. I really like that for you. And Pluto is also sextiling retrograde Mercury. And so I like that as well for poor Mercury. Now, Pluto is sort of giving Mercury a little bit more depth and maturity. You don't have to worry too much regarding advancing. So, when this connection happens with retrograde Mercury to Pluto, I like this for, yeah, I'm pretty sold on other people supporting me with my career advancement and my ambitions. So I like that with retrograde Mercury when it sextiles Pluto, just in time with the grand water trine where your social houses are all in flow and lots of nice, intimate exchanges. Quite nice day on the 17th. On the 18th, retrograde Mercury goes back into your natal 7th house of Scorpio, won't go direct until the end of the month. So now we have retrograde Mercury going back into your natal 7th house, joining the Sun and your chart ruler, Venus. So Mercury is going back to recover experiences regarding your relationships and other people. He wants to get the goods financially, with information and travel opportunities. From the 18th, there could be lots of movement and lots of ups and downs and exchanges with Mercury back in the natal 7th house with you and other people in your life and your significant one-on-one relationships. It's going to get really busy now with Mercury back in the natal 7th house, joining your chart ruler Venus and the Sun. On the 19th, Mercury opposes retrograde Uranus in your natal first house of Taurus, and retrograde Mercury is trining retrograde Neptune. Okay, so this is a pretty interesting day astrologically with these archetypal aspects. So, Mercury opposing to retrograde Uranus in Taurus. Um, I just think potentially with this archetypal connection that something or someone's going to fall through. Something's not connecting well with retrograde Mercury opposed to retrograde Uranus in your natal first house. Like a surprise, this isn't going to happen, or surprise, this connection isn't what you thought, or this plan really isn't what you thought it was going to be. It's that sort of thing with retrograde Mercury opposed to retrograde Uranus. And retrograde Mercury connecting on the same day on the 19th with retrograde Neptune. This could be going back to an old story or an old collaboration, organization, or person in the public that makes you feel like, oh, here we go again, sensation. So the 19th, I think, is a really frustrating day. And I think the frustration's coming from doing what you have to do. We know Venus is in detriment in Scorpio. It just feels like I can't believe this is happening again. Or this doesn't feel really exciting or that wonderful with retrograde Mercury opposing retrograde Uranus and trining retrograde Neptune. Like this old chestnut metaphor, that's what I'm getting. That's my subjective personal outlook on this aspects on the 19th. On the 21st, we're having our second lunation of the month, and it is a new moon in Scorpio where the moon, is in fall in Scorpio at 28 degrees. And on the same day, retrograde Mercury is in the heart of the sun, which is called a gazemi. Fascinating day, the 21st. Because after that new moon, then the sun advances and then opposes retrograde Uranus and Taurus and also trines retrograde Neptune in Pisces. And then the sun moves into Sagittarius, into the natal 8th house till December 21st. That's a lot going on with the sun. So this is really interesting. And so not to pull it to pieces too much, but we like a Mercury Cazimi because Mercury Cazimis is when we get an opportunity to tap into our intelligence, especially in Scorpio. Listen to our instincts, listen to our gut, trust our feelings, trust our psychic emotions that we're getting with Mercury Cazimi, the sun in Scorpio, which is recovering and organically connecting with the depths of our spirit selves. And that may help us a little bit when we have a new moon, when the moon's in fall. Really, I don't want to be here. I would rather be exalted in Taurus in your natal first house. So now the moon on the 21st is like, this is like establishing a new beginning where we're all not getting what we want. It's a bittersweet kind of beginning. And this happens annually where we just go, we got to do what we got to do. So this new beginning that is ripe for you to connect with at your own free will, of course, indicates there's a new environment or a new relationship or new change regarding connection that is going to happen whether we like it or not. So think I have to go in this environment because it's where the work's at or it's where the money's at, or a relationship in your life is starting something that they go, I don't really want to do this, but they've got to do it. It's like a necessary evil to advance and get to where our destinations. When we've got plans, we have to do things we don't always, basically jump up and down about every day, like the dishes or a job. So that's what the new moon in Scorpio feels like. It's like, oh, well, I got to do this. It's not ideal. It's not really blowing their, hair off my head, but there's something in this connection or this relationship, this person, this environment that has to go, has to advance. And we got to be okay with new starts that may feel a little bit foreign and not so comfortable on the 21st. But with retrograde Cazimi, I think there's something really in this at the same time where, because Mercury is about finance, travel, and also about information. So this could also factor into this new beginning: travel, finances, or information that makes you engage with a new environment or a relationship because there's something in it, or a relationship in your life. It's going to benefit from moving or traveling, or they're just all up in their feels on the 21st and you get to hear about it because you have this connection with them. Yeah, fascinating day on the 21st. But I do like retrograde Mercury Cazimi. The same day, it's sort of, we got to do what we got to do. We've got to advance. But there's something beneficial at the same time about this advancement, even though it may not feel completely our cup of tea, if you will. With the sun opposed retrograde Uranus and trine retrograde Neptune, yeah, again, I think it's that old saying, this old chestnut. We've got to basically do what we have to do, even though we may be returning to an old story or trying to finish an old story or an old event on the 21st when the sun opposes retrograde Uranus and trines retrograde Neptune. And then the sun goes into Sagittarius for 4 weeks. So this is all on the 21st. So the 21st is a pretty standout day. So the sun is going into the natal eighth house of Sagittarius, joining Mars. And we like that because the sun in Sagittarius is a pretty good placement for the sun. So the optimism and the drive and the life force and the spirit is in connecting with others' resources and creating a transformation. It's go time with the sun in the seventh. And travel and learning and education, whether it's mentoring or teaching, exploration, delving into philosophy with others' resources and transformation. I think it's a pretty lively transit. So your natal eighth house is getting a big boost now that the sun is in the natal eighth house. So think capitalizing on people that can show you the ropes or advance you. Think um, lots of laugh and humor going on connected to other people's resources that really do lighten the load with the sun in the eighth house with Mars. So I like that. On the 25th, your chart ruler Venus conjuncts retrograde Mercury at 22 degrees. Now, this is fascinating. So, with Venus conjunct retrograde Mercury, this is really good for very optimistic news and that keeps you going, gives you a little bit of a spark on the 25th. So, eyes and ears peeled for a little bit of a happy dance when your chart ruler Venus conjuncts retrograde Mercury at 22 degrees. The 26th, we have our second grand water trine of the month of November, and your chart ruler Venus is trining retrograde Jupiter and trining retrograde Saturn. And this is also the day, the 26th, that Saturn stations a direct in Pisces in your natal 11th house, where retrograde Neptune is also transiting. Okay, I like to think of this day as an opportunity for Taurus rising signs to air their grievances. Talk from the heart chakra. Get it all out there with the grand water trine with Venus to retrograde Jupiter and retrograde Saturn. Re-establishing some sort of agreement, some sort of sure footing for yourself is well advised. So talk, communicate, express your authentic self on the 26th when your chart ruler Venus trines retrograde Jupiter and retrograde Saturn. So establishing firm boundaries and consolidating plans with others, tuning into what you know your heart's desire is and being very mature on the 26th with the grand water trine when Saturn stations direct, meaning you are going to be committing firmly to being very wise about your decisions moving forward. And that means you expressing yourself authentically with others with the grand water trine. Really interesting day on the 26th. Lots of expression and lots of locking in agreements or leveling up when it comes to committing. The next day on the 27th, your chart ruler Venus opposes retrograde Uranus. Not loving the position you're in at the moment, feeling a little bit stifled, a little bit caged. Could be a day of review for you when Venus opposes retrograde Uranus on the 27th and Mercury stations direct at 20 degrees. So with Mercury now direct, we can at the very least just sit with ourselves on the 27th and process what's been going on. Just really drop it into ourselves now that Mercury is direct, because the Mercury's retrograde periods can be very chaotic. So we're sort of taking it all in on the 27th, and with Venus opposing retrograde Uranus, that aspect indicates not being completely settled or feeling a little uh, electrified, if you will, like the nervous system's really heightened. So maybe good human advice is maybe do your best to not be too rattled or feel lost in the juice. Know that life needs to be laughed at sometimes when things get a little bit weird and wacky on the 27th. But now Mercury's direct, we can go, yeah, okay. I know what I know. I experienced what I've experienced in my retrograde period, connecting to relationships and other people in your life. And now you get a little bit of time to process it all and have a think about it. But Venus opposed Uranus can be a little bit contentious. That much I will say about that archetypal aspect. Okay, now we're getting down to it. Your chart rule of Venus on the 30th is going to trine retrograde Neptune. So going back over old ground with your dreams and your goals, people that you connect with in community or organizations is up for review again on the 30th when your chart ruler Venus connects in a trine to retrograde Neptune. Could also be with this aspect recovering an old idea or an ideal situation when it comes to revamping your sense of goals in your life with Venus trine retrograde Neptune on the 30th. Then on the same day, Venus will ingress into Sagittarius, joining Mars and Sun in your natal 8th house. And your chart rule of Venus will now be in Sagittarius until December 24. Oh, look, you may have been really through it in the month of November, but when Venus gets into Sagittarius, it's all systems go regarding seeking out adventure and knowledge and experience. You're really invested, if you will, in capitalizing on expansion and growth and really establishing a goal and shooting for the stars when Venus is in the natal 8th house. So I like to think of you being really optimistic about your prospects connected to other people and developing a aptitude for expanding on your financial portfolio through other people and seeking out some sort of transformation, transforming your ideas and philosophies about life. So you could be seeking out religious aspects or paths. It could be any epistemology, could be astrology, could be Buddhism. So you may find yourself wanting to connect with the spiritual soul self when Venus is in Sagittarius in your natal 8th house. And you could meet some gurus, you can meet some teachers, you can meet some enlightened people that really do tick your boxes. We've got this stellium going on now in your natal 8th house of transformation, the Sun, Mars, and Venus. So really nice astrology and a really positive transit at that when Venus is in Sagittarius. You're seeking out adventure through mind, body, spirit, and soul and wanting to connect with foreign concepts, foreign people, foreign places, maybe wanting to extend your reach regarding travel, planning travel. Really nice. Venus in the 8th. Thanks for tuning in, Taurus rising signs of the zodiac, to your monthly horoscope through the lens of astrology with Cosmic Girl. Trust you have a wonderful month. If you'd like to work personally with me regarding your own natal chart, progressions, solar returns, etc., or working with a particular Time Lord, I would love to help you delve into the astrology system and or timing techniques. If you need a bit of a hand, I can be contacted at Cosmic Girl 101 at protonmail.com. Till next time, enjoy your month and stay cosmic.